Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Ford, and we are here for another video which will appear in two separate playlists here on the channel. Number one, the short story discussion playlist, but number two, a short story by short story read-along of Ernest Hemingway, the Finca Vigia edition. This is the 12th episode in that playlist. I've lost track of where we are with the short story discussions, but what we have here will be a So What Happened portion where we talk about a recap of the short story. Then a literary criticism portion where we talk about the literary goings on in this story. And finally, some writer's notes that we can take from a very short story by Ernest Hemingway. So, what happens in a very short story by Ernest Hemingway? Well, an American is injured and is in the care of a nurse named Luz. When he recovers a bit, he helps her with her responsibilities, sort of as a thank you for the care that she gave him, but also because they have become something of an item. Then they pray together before he goes back to the front lines. Then they plan on getting married before he leaves and goes back to the States. They want to get married while he's still there, but they want to do something nice, and they know they're just not in position to do anything nice for their wedding. When he's through with his service, they agree that they will go back to the States, and he will go back to the States, and he will find a good job, and then he will bring her over. But while the two are traveling they're on a train getting ready to ship him off back to the United States, they get in something of a row. They start fighting a little bit later. So they're fighting until he leaves, which means that they are in a fight when they separate. A little bit later, she has opened a hospital, and some Italian soldiers are in the hospital, and Luz sleeps with a major in the Italian army. The Venditti, is that what it is? I've got it written down somewhere. Anyway, she sleeps with one of the majors, and they plan on getting married, so she writes to the American and breaks things off. But that major never comes back for her. He never marries her. And then eventually, the American gets gonorrhea from a girl who works in a mall. I imagine it was a J.C. Penney, because a lot of the people who work at J.C. Penney's have gonorrhea. Isn't that right, Amanda? What were we talking about? Right. On to literary analysis. Here's a funny thing that you'll notice about this short story if you decide to look it up online. This A under literary criticism, no, really, what happened? There are no shortage of differences in summaries of this short story, which is very, very impressive for a very short story, which is probably 400 words, maybe less. So a lot of this has to do with the sparse language that Hemingway deploys. There is a lot of pronoun confusion if you allow it to creep into the short story, and if you do not necessitate that the pronoun is in reference to whoever is closest to the pronoun. So some ambiguity might pop up with whether or not the soldier who is originally with Luz, whether or not he lives in New York. Because if he lives in New York, where they plan to pick up Luz when she comes back, then the major in the Italian army is not Italian. So we have here the American who is fighting probably in the Italian army, right? Because that is sort of what Hemingway went and did. He went and he drove on the front lines in World War I for the Italian army and was injured. They think that this short story was a little bit of maybe mental sort of refuse from writing A Farewell to Arms. So, and very similar, obviously, there is some did or did not the American soldier, our protagonist, sort of American soldier, did he or did he not sleep with Luz? Were the Arditi, I guess it is, actually Italian again? Um, is Luz Italian? There are no shortage of summaries of this short story which will suggest that Luz herself was Italian. I don't think so. She had never experienced Italians before. This phrase, as it is used by Hemingway, may have meant that she had never slept with an Italian before. It may have meant that she never knew Italians. As I understand it, the name Luz, L-U-Z, is predominantly Spanish or Portuguese. So that would sort of gray the lines a little bit more. I am not sure 100% if the Arditi were strictly deployed within Italy. That could help shore things up a little bit, but only a little bit, because it's possible that someone else had come to Italy in order to set up a hospital, and Luz did not run the first hospital at which she worked, right? So there's all sorts of things that could be going on in this short story. Hemingway gives us so little detail that it becomes very easy to get different readings out of a short story, even one which is as short as this. On page 107, we have this. Where are we at here? Give me 1 second. I lost it. I'm an idiot. Oh, yeah, no, I got it. When we are hearing about Luz and our soldier making plans for the future, the phrase, "it was understood he would not drink, and he did not want to see his friends or anyone in the States." Why is this understood? We are left, in some degree, to understand that his drinking and possibly his carousing was a problem between the two of them. Because this would have been the case, he would have agreed to be on his best behavior while the two were separated. This is a great example of one of the small things. I mean, this sentence is very almost asinine here. In it was understood that he would not drink and he did not want to see his friends or anyone in the United States. Why is that understood? This is a thing that is given to us by Hemingway, which would very easily be read as a banal statement. Oh, so what? He's not going to drink. Who cares? It would be easy to just, oh, okay, that's a weird thing to throw in there, except that it's Hemingway. And you know that with all the stuff that's left out of this short story, if that sentence is left in to this short story, it means something. It's there for a reason. So it tells me that our soldier here had a problem with alcohol, or maybe he had solutions in alcohol, and Luz didn't think that those answers were very good. Now, here is something as well. The last thing in the literary criticism section of this fight between them. They are taking him to the airport or the ship. I don't know if it ever says whether it's in a plane or a boat that he goes back on. Either way, they're taking him to send him back to America. You don't start a fight with someone that you are sending continents away on accident. And it is so first off, the fight's not an accident. That fight is on purpose. Number two, it seems a lot like the soldier, the man in this relationship, is a bit blindsided by this fight, meaning the fight was probably started by Luz. So this fight was for one, in my opinion, for one of two reasons. And again, this is the brilliance that's in Hemingway. Hemingway doesn't come out and say this. Hemingway doesn't even infer it. Hemingway just puts the facts in the story. But you know as well as I do that if that fight happens, that fight is not on accident. That fight, when you're sending someone continents away, that fight, when you're sending someone away indefinitely and you do not know when you will see them again, that fight, when you were sending someone away and you're not calling them on the phone, if you're communicating with them in that meantime, it's through letter. Those fights are on purpose. It's for one of two reasons. Number one, she is causing a stink because she does not want him to go. She is causing a stink, therefore, in order that the two will stay together. Don't go back to America. I love you. I want you to stay here. If that means at some other point, look, you're not going to go back there and see anyone anyway. You've already told me you don't want to go back there and see your friends. Why don't you just want to stay here until we can figure something out? Maybe you can find a job here and we can go back to the United States and start on our feet. And whether or not you find a job immediately is sort of inconsequential. Or that fight was an attempt to break it off. So that fight was for one of two reasons: to stay together or to go apart. Now, we're told that this fight, now we are told in the text that this fight happened because Luz did not want to come at once. She didn't want to come at once. You're going to go to America. I don't want to come immediately. A little bit of ambiguity there, whether that coming at once is because, whether that she didn't want to come at once was that she did not want to come as soon as our protagonist has gotten back to the United States, as is insinuated purely by the language, or that she did not want to come immediately once he had found a job, as is insinuated by the story. So there's some ambiguity there as well, but we are told that that's the reason. But that can't be the reason, because whatever it is, they had already talked about it. They had made these plans, they had made these designs, so she went onto that train with him fully knowing their plans, and then decided to cause the stink. Now, what I'm in the air as for whether or not I think that it is because she wanted to be together or to be apart. Because I think one thing that people also do in relationships, so it would seem that she caused this fight, she started this fight because she wanted to break up with him. That's why she ended up sleeping with a major in the army. But one thing that I have seen from people, I mean, I'm old enough to have listened to plenty of stories, to have been through plenty of J.C. Penney's. Oftentimes, there are certain personality types that will cheat in a relationship in order to get attention. You're not paying attention to me. I'm going to do the most egregious thing that I can do to betray your trust because I'm not getting my attention. And we'll see if you even notice that. And if you don't notice that, oh, you're toast. If you don't notice that, that person will get over the moon on you. So that might just be Luz's personality. Now, as far as writer's notes are concerned, the opening line of this short story: one hot evening in Padua, they carried him up onto the roof, and he could look out over the top of the town. So that is starting in media res, but only kind of, because we are starting in Okay, so Padua is in Italy. So this does take place in Italy. So I just caught that reference there. I don't know that that necessitates Luz is Italian, especially as we are somewhere in the war. I don't know if this is shortly. I don't know if this is in World War One or if this is shortly after World War One, where there is still some fighting going on. But it's not unusual for people to be moving around between countries in order to find work, right? So either way, what was I saying? Oh yeah, in media res, but it's not in the middle of action. It is telling about. So it's in media res because we are finding these people already involved in their stories. We're not finding these people at the beginning of their stories. We're finding these people as they have already. The soldier and Luz already know each other. The soldier's already been injured. The soldier is already healing and is helping Luz with her responsibilities. They are already in love. We are in media res as far as that is concerned, but we're not in the middle of action. So it is a bit of a fine line here with Hemingway, and the bit of the fine line doesn't stop there because in a couple sentences later, one of the great things about one of the ways to write effectively, I guess I should say, is to show, don't tell. You've heard it 1,000 times. Show, don't tell. One of the ways that this happens in characterization is we are shown a moment in dialogue. Instead, in this short story, we are given previous dialogue. We are told previous dialogue. When they operated on him, she prepared him for the operating table, and they had a joke about a friend or enema. So the joke is, are you a friend or an enemy, right? But this is friend or enema. The showing part of this would be to give us that scene. But in order that we start in media res, that part of their relationship has to have happened in the past. I am not opposed to it here because it makes this relationship feel years old. They have that joke between them. If you show us that, you can show us that moment and make it feel old. He asked her, "Are you a friend or enema?" And she smiled the way that she always did. Right? That shows us that that joke is an old inside joke between the two of them. But it's kind of labored. The way that Hemingway just works it in here so flawlessly, the way that Hemingway works it in here so matter of factly, the way that Hemingway works it in here is banal, but it's cute, right? It's sort of a cute joke. So, because it's a cute joke, we forgive the fact that it's banal, it's worked in a banal fashion. We forgive the fact that we do not see the moment this happens, and it adds depth to the relationship between Luz and the soldier. So, when you take a step back, there's almost no way. I should have counted. There's almost, or found it on the internet. There's almost no way that this is 400 words. The fact that there is so much going on, there's so much that's already happened, and there's so much in the future beyond this piece, because essentially everything from he went on to America on a boat from Genoa. Oh, it's a boat. Okay, I blanked out on that fact too. I guess they wouldn't have been flying, would they? I'm kind of an idiot. Lewis went back to Pordenone to open a hospital. So everything from that point forward is future. Everything from everything in those first two paragraphs is kind of in the past. So we have essentially 3 paragraphs of an in real time story. And there's so much in this page and a half short story. That is how you do it. That's all I have for this short story discussion. Pardon me. If you like or appreciate what I do on the channel, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing I talk about on this channel. So consider hitting the subscribe button in order to stick around for more literature in the future. There's poetry every Monday. I am going through this Thinkovesia edition, short story by short story. We just finished up Dubliners by James Joyce, a short story by short story read-along of that piece. So, again, we're currently reading through Carrie by Stephen King and a couple other Stephen Kings. If I ever get back to them, I apologize. I'm sorry. But hit the subscribe, but stick around. Hope to have you back for the next one.